Hey everyone, just wanted to let y'all know that my physical copy of my graphic novel is now available to purchase on Amazon. There's also the ebook form, but it's finally done. I'm excited. Finally got the physical copy ready to go. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave the links down in the descriptions, alright? Other than that, I hope you enjoy the video. Bye. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wicked Art. It's Wicked here, and today we're going to be talking about textures and things like that. So how you can implement these things into your artwork if you're drawing a scene or whatever. So we're going to start with wood. Now these are going to be relatively short little lessons here, but we're going to start with, let's say we wanted to draw something like a house that's made out of wood. So we're just going to start with just a basic wood plank, okay? So the things with wood is you really got to kind of work in the grains, but you also want to be as random as possible. So little things like, we can just draw out some lines, but instead of just keeping them straight, right, we can kind of split things up. And since these are the cracks or the grooves, I'm going to thicken that up. So I got a little piece coming off right here. I can run off another piece like this. Right, and take that down. And with wood, you kind of have to think of it like the trees, when we have those kind of like ring marks and things like that. So we can kind of just change the shape of things with our line work, right? So we can continue and maybe add in a few thicker pieces where the wood is grooved a little deeper. And we can just run that down to the bottom there. So you can see I'm kind of just randomly putting in these areas. So like a lot of times I like to come in and add in a ring almost kind of shape where the line is turning, right? And that'll kind of help give it a little bit of more of a wood texture too, but just constantly just kind of changing up the shape of where your lines go. And you want to make sure that you're never, well, I shouldn't say never, but try not to do the same thing. So if I was to draw another piece of wood, I would try not to have the exact same line works in there. We really want to try to separate each individual wood. Kind of think of it like a snowflake almost, right? We want to have it be unique and individual, so we can use some of the same processes to come up with the wood. But we really want to kind of define our piece with random lines. So you can still kind of do this curvature on all of your other stuff as well. You just want to, like I said, make sure that as you build it out, and this would be for more like if you were, up close to the wood and seeing a lot more. Once you get more at a distance, you probably don't have to put as many lines in there, but the premise will work the same. Okay, and kind of put like an edge here, like where it can look like it's chipped, and we can take that down. And you can see how that's starting to build the texture out. Okay. Now it's not just as simple as coming in and just putting it in lines, because it also depends. Like if it's freshly cut wood, you could probably leave it like this, but I want to add like a little bit of a wear and tear to it. So like when I connect these lines here, I'm going to kind of round them out. And just have them kind of arch. So it's almost like I'm doing an M shape. And what that will allow for is some change in the texture of the wood. Right, so I can take that out. And once I work my way to the top, we're kind of doing the same thing. We're just going to kind of do that kind of M shape coming out. You could make it sharper if you wanted to. Right. So like that there is our piece of wood. Now, let's say I wanted to move on to something like there's a little bit more like in the aspect of stone. Now I'm going to draw this square. Okay, so think of this as like I'm just kind of boxing off the area where my texture is going to be residing within, right? So now when it comes to stone, the key thing to get it kind of like a cobblestone kind of look is the changing of the size of your work. So what I like to do is work off the grooves that I'm making. So like these areas here where they kind of touch at the corners is where I want to kind of come in and change the structure up. Right? And it'll change it in a way that'll help you have bigger pieces and some oblong shapes. So you're just kind of building out different things to kind of just help. Again, kind of like what we do with the lines, just having some change. And I guess not necessarily change, but trying to think of a good word for it. Variety would be a good word. So we have some variety in our structure, right? So again, they can be any size. You're not beholden to make them all the same, because if you come and you just started doing this for rocks, well then it doesn't look as natural, because you just have a bunch of sequenced circular shapes. Or here, I have a lot more variety to give me more of a cobblestone type look. So when you're doing like a stone structure or a stone street, this is a method that you can use to help build it out. And again, remember, all stones that would be like cut or gathered and make into a stone pathway, they're not going to be the same size. So that's why it's important to kind of change up the shape that you're doing. So this could be, like I said, it could be for a cobblestone street. It could be, let's say you're making like an old cottage, and you're just really trying to give it like a rock wall type structure. You can see how I'm just kind of changing the shapes as I go, trying my best not to repeat too much, right? But we do want to include those little stones that would kind of help it be sealed up inside of there. Okay, so in the places where I want to keep it round, you can see I'm kind of darkening up those edges. Right, and then we can just kind of close that off right there. So that'd be kind of like a stone piece. Okay, now there are other things that we could do. We could do, I think of another ground texture. Let's say you're doing like an Old West thing, or you're just trying to make a desert scene, right? So as you come in, it's all honestly just going to be about the crack work, and then every so often you can come in and add like a circle, right? Think about any sidewalks that you've seen that end up getting these kind of like huge, like almost a smashed crack, and how those things would connect and break off into the next one, right? So we can kind of take that down. And again, every so often I can add in like a little rock stubble and think about how I want to break off any or all cracks that come in. Are there any splits that are going to come down? And the whole thing doesn't have to be connected. You can kind of come in and cause a split, right? And we could come up from here, maybe add a much larger cracked area. Let me just go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and darken my lines around just so you can see the border a little bit better. Okay. And then we could get some random piece there. Again, the key part is just kind of every so often adding in some round shapes and thinking about how cracks work. Like I said, you could go outside and you could easily see in the street around your house and just kind of look and study and see how those things work. But you kind of have to put in a little bit of effort. I mean, if you're not the type of person that likes to go outside, obviously you could just as easily just look up cracked street on the internet. But again, this is just you focus and highlight the areas that you want to highlight. Now, obviously, like right now, it's not going to look like much, but then when you decide on a color to put over it, you can do that way. The next one we're going to talk about, we can do some brick. Okay, so let's say we want to do some brick. Okay, so I'm going to draw out another square shape. Again, these are just more like a thumbnail. Okay, so we're not, that way I'm not just stretching across the page, I'm just beholden to the area that I'm working in. Alright, so I can take my rectangular shapes, I'm going to start them up here. If you notice, I'm leaving that mortar gap because that's how they're pieced together. That's why it's called brick and mortar. It's what holds the bricks in place. Okay, but here comes the key part. We don't want the next level to be on the same side, right? So I can kind of split the two right here. Again, I don't want those edges touching. Now, if you're doing a fresh house, like something that's just been built, it's supposed to look new. Then by the time we're done with this, then that should be what you go with. And you just continue to work your way down. So you'll see how the sizes and where I place the bricks will change as I go around. So I might see like the tail end of one, right there. The key thing is just that these lines that go down vertically are not lined up with each other, because that's just not how brick is laid. So see, I can see if I'm starting to get too close to that, then I'm stretching it out too far. So we'll just cut that off right here. And we're going to take that across and go down. So you can see how it's starting to look like brick, right? Same thing here. I would have the next piece come out about halfway through the brick. Right? Stretch that across. And if you notice, I'm not squaring off the brick. And that's because the look I'm going for is a little bit more old, a little bit more worn. So we're not going to see that perfect rectangular shape in there. Okay, so I'm just going to stretch that out. And by all rights, if you wanted a perfect brick house with no anything in it, then that's where you can stop, right? But for mine, going for more of a worn look, we can come in here and we can add little details like these little divots in here. Maybe it's got some cracked space in it where it stretches down. And again, I can add more of those divots in there. And you can see how that's starting to give it a little bit more texture, a little bit more realism, just by adding in a few extra lines. Now, with the brick, it's not like the wood. Well, like even here, I didn't go like overboard, but here it's more of a like less is more type thing, right? We don't have to have an obscene amount of detail in everything that's going on. Again, I can just kind of add in a crack here. Maybe put another divot, but you can see how it's kind of connecting across. Maybe that's where it's taking some stress fractures out. And it's just adding that little bit of detail. That's going to define, the look of the house, giving it that old kind of textured look. Again, cracks don't have to be anything fancy. We can just put in a few divots here and there, maybe a dot or two, just kind of give it some detail. And if you notice, I'm kind of keeping things different as I go through. I'm not trying, much like we did with the wood where we don't want repeating lines, I'm trying not to repeat too much on what I'm doing on this brick. So again, this will give us more of an older look. If you don't want the older look, you would just leave it as it is. Okay, let's see, we could probably do one random here. So you can see how everything's different, so it makes it look more natural. So most of the time, not all the time, you could probably go out and find some stuff that repeats, but most of the time in nature, things don't repeat. Things just kind of happen naturally. Okay, so that gives me my brick structure, right? And we have time for one more. I'm trying to think of a good one that could really kind of help. I guess since we're kind of still on the theme of like houses, or things you can do for structures or surrounding area, let's do like an old fantasy style house shingle look. Darken up this border just so you can see it. Okay. So the key thing that, at least this is what I do, you don't have to do what I do, but the key thing that I found is if you overlap, right, and leave a little space, and then just kind of thicken up those edges, what it does is allows for a more natural setting, right? So like maybe there were some pieces that didn't cut out evenly, but it's really more for visual interest, right? So again, kind of going for that older look. Give it some wear and tear. And again, just on your personal preference of how you want it to look, right? So these can be the shingles on your house. If you look closely enough at the shapes themselves, you could honestly probably make something a little bit more out of this, but this is just more of, like I said, that wood kind of shingle slapped laid over the top. You can see I kind of split that out just so that I could get some difference between the two. And again, it's up to you. If you want to put little cracks and things like that into your work, you can. It'll just give it a little bit more texture. And again, just thickening up those edges will kind of help sell it too. Okay. And there's obviously like natural textures that we could learn. I just don't have time those today. So if that's something you want to see, but yeah, just let me know down in the comments if you liked the video or if you want to see something else. That's what this channel is for. It's for you. So if you want to see something specific, a specific art lesson, a specific character drawing, just let me know down in the comments. It really just helps the channel out, not just from an algorithm standpoint, but from the standpoint of me getting you what it is you want to see. I designed this channel to be kind of like a classroom, so if you want to learn how to draw, you need to leave me a comment. Let me know what you want to see next. It's the only way that I don't just keep winging it. This actually came at a request from somebody who's been a long time viewer of the channel and wanted me to do some textures, so I've done that per their request, and that's what I would love to see is other requests for things to do. Like I said, I really love having the students. Again, thank you for everyone who has subscribed. I really appreciate you, and if you're new here and you like what you saw, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. Everybody else, I hope you have a wonderful day. Remember to keep on sketching, and I will see you in the next one. All right? Bye.